I had a lot of big traumas and it's a lot of pain. The memory, the flashbacks of my sexual abuse was starting to come back to me.
Talk to me about where it all started.
I think for me, that started...
Azi Mohammadian is a counselor and the founder of Azi Counselling and Associates. For over 10 years, she's been helping people deal with stress, anxiety, and burnout, especially in the workplace. She works with companies to support their team's mental health, so employees stay motivated, focused, and happy. Her goal is simple. Better mental health means better work and better lives.
What ignited leaving to Canada, or like wanting to get help when reaching out to somebody, or leaving the country first?
Reaching out for help first. There was a lot of ups and downs.
I always think that the best counselors, therapists, any type of healer has a lot of personal experiences that are generally pretty deep and in a wide variety of spectrums, because how can you sit with somebody in pain if you've never experienced immense pain yourself? Do you have a favorite style of meditation?
I don't like self-guided meditations. I don't know why.
What advice would you give to somebody who feels disconnected from their inner power?
I think...
Welcome to the Built for This Stories of a Maverick podcast. I am Jenna Bayuk, the founder of Kinship Collective and host of this podcast. Today in this episode, we're sitting down with Azi Mohammadian, a registered clinical counselor, supervisor, and soon-to-be author whose life journey embodies resilience, self-discovery, and purpose. From navigating cultural stigma around mental health to immigrating from Iran to Canada, building a therapy practice. Her story is definitely one of healing, courage, and transformation. So today we're going to jump in, explore the power of embracing the wounded healer archetype, the importance of therapy, and how personal adversity can be the foundation for deep empathy and professional impact. Welcome, Azi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. Spoiler alert for everybody who's listening or watching. We've known each other for a while, so this is exciting when I get to formally have a conversation with you and share, because I know all the goods. But let's start kind of at the beginning. Talk to me about where it all started at home and kind of what was the moment that started kind of the beginning of what you didn't know was going to be this amazing journey?
Oh, that's a big question. You mean in Iran?
Yeah.
Okay. I think, well, I like to believe when you started about being a teenager, I think you kind of start having some sort, I don't even want to call it an awareness. It's like shit is hitting the fan.
Yeah.
It's like,
big feelings.
Yes, big feelings are coming up. You're like, what's happening? Why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
So I think for me, that started to have that awareness that, okay, there's a lot of feeling. I don't know what they are. Mm-hmm. Somewhere around when I was 15, 16, a teenager in Iran, dating my now ex-husband, back in a day, my boyfriend. And just... I think that's the start of it, really. There was a lot of ups and downs. Your typical anxious avoidant attachment dance between us.
Yeah.
And so just kind of, I don't know if you want me to get into how I ended up actually on this journey of, okay, I feel like I need to go talk to somebody. And so, but yeah, lots of feelings were coming up. At this point, I was just living with my mom, single mom, lots of mental health issues.
Yeah.
Lots of unprocessed, unresolved trauma. And it was just me and her at home.
And I would say, too, to preface, because especially at that age, most now, obviously, mental health has a bit more kind of momentum beneath the wings to seek that out. But I imagine, one, especially being in a single family household is tough, but then also in Iran adds another layer of complexity from a cultural background, and it not being... Seeking help is not naturally necessarily your go-to resource plan.
Not really. And this is back in the day, I think... Everybody's going to know my age now, but I don't care. This was around, I think I want to say year 2000.
Okay.
When I was 16. So, and so lots of feelings of this deep sense of loneliness was coming up. And you're absolutely right. So back in the day in Iran, I mean, I know my family didn't have any means because we didn't have any money. When my dad left, kind of our life went from being a kind of middle class to towards the kind of the poverty class. So my mom wasn't working. We were on my dad's pension. 4 kids. married early, left home. I was the youngest of it at home. So I don't think anybody knew anything about therapy. And then nobody had the money, like at least in my family. Maybe if you were an upper class family and you were more ever, but I don't think it was even that popular in Iran back in the day to find your way and say, okay, I think maybe I'll go see somebody.
Yeah. So you're a teenager, you're having big feelings, you're dating a guy who you don't know yet will soon be your husband, or maybe at that point you were young and in love and maybe thought about that. What kind of ignited the spark, leaving to Canada, or what came first? Like wanting to get help and reaching out to somebody, or leaving the country first?
Reaching out for help first, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think because I was with this person, and again, that typical anxious avoidant dance we were having. So I was constantly left feeling, I'm not worthy, I'm not alone. He wants me, he doesn't want me. He loves me, he doesn't want me. Why doesn't he love me? He doesn't call me. What's happening? So I think it was then first that, and till today, this blows my mind away actually, because I have this friend from high school I still keep in touch with. Kudos to her. She was the one who actually brought it up to me, and she's like, I think I know this psychologist. Do you want to go see her? I'm like, sure. Like, because I think she was seeing my struggles.
Yeah.
So, and I can speak about the journey a little bit of how I made it up there.
Well, yeah. And I think the struggles are important because I think for some people listening, I think they can assume what an anxious attachment avoidance style is. And everybody, again, is going to show up a little bit differently. But for you, and especially maybe if somebody has a friend going through it, what were some of the signs in terms of how you were showing up that was cause for concern?
Well, lots of, I think, ups and downs in my moods. So like I would see him, yay, we're in love. Oh my God, he loves me. And then if he wouldn't like call me like, I don't know, in 2 days, the next day, or if he had like, and he, ironically, he came from this beautiful big family. Parents are like happily married and like always together, this big gatherings. And I'm like sitting at home waiting for his call. He's not calling, and constant fights of like what's happening. And a very typical thing with anxious attachment style actually is that anxious protest, which is, okay, so you don't love me anymore. I'm going to break up with you.
Right.
So God knows how many times I told this guy that let's end it. I don't want to be with you. So, and that was the hook. And I would say that, and then he would come back. Okay, no, I love you. And then it would be good for a little bit of a while. And then again, like 2 weeks later.
We've all been there, yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And a 16-year-old with no one really truly to turn to. My mom was dealing with her own stuff. It's bad to say, but sometimes I call her like the ghost of a mom because there was no talking in the house. There was no talking about anything in the house.
Right.
She was just there, and she was doing her bare minimum, the amount she could actually do, just to cook and to just send me to school.
Yeah.
So I think my friend, also she came from like a fairly decent family, much healthier obviously than my family. And she's like, okay, like super smart. Why don't you go see this psychologist? Like you're constantly in this up and down, because obviously when you're in that stage, who gets to hear it? Your friends. And your friends are also teenagers. Yeah. How are they going to help you? Like even today, as at this age, like, you know, like you need an objective perspective, you know, someone to tell you what's happening.
Yeah, give you some hard truths. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that's how she gave me the number.
Okay.
And I remember, obviously, didn't have a lot of money. So I kind of saved up like probably 6-7 months back in the day. It's hard to kind of translate the amount of money in Iran, but the psychologists charged quite a lot of money for back in the day. And so I saved up just to go see her. And I was kind of very impressed by, like, I knew she kind of did her schooling. I heard from my friend, she went to school abroad and psychologist, pretty good. And so she wasn't even in this town, the town I was living in. Yeah. So we were living in a small town. She was living, let's say, we were living close to a bigger city in Iran. Yeah. His name is Esfahan. And then so it was like about an hour and a half bus ride to get there. So save up the money, get on the bus ride. Nobody even knows except the friend. My mom doesn't even know. I used to take English classes back in it. I think it was about the time that I started. So I'm like, I'm going to my English class. She doesn't know where I'm going to. So yeah, so I went to this woman, walked into the office. Receptionist kind of welcomed me. It was quiet. Nobody else was there. And she kind of led me to her room. She was like, you can go in. And like the picture is so vivid, like as if it like honestly happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I walk in. So in Iran, obviously, as you probably know, you're supposed to wear a scarf and uniform when you're outside. Doesn't matter even if you're in a private office. She's sitting in this beautiful suit, two-piece suit, behind a desk, very like classic. And she welcomes me in, and I'm like, okay, this is like very cool office. Never been here, never been done this before. And so in a matter of 1 hour, she technically analyzed my whole life for me. And literally, this is like the sentence that it kind of stood out for me. You're trying to fill a void that your father has left in you when he left when you were 3 years old with your boyfriend. And that's why you're having a lot of up and down. You're seeking love from him. He's not giving it to you, but that's like an older wound. It's not about him. And I was just like sitting there for 1 hour, and I'm like, okay. Yeah. I wish I had money to go back to her.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that was the only session I could afford to go to her.
Yeah.
But I think it started something in me.
Yeah.
It definitely started something in me. And
So I'll call it a heavy hitting statement at that age to hear that. And then also really, I think, compartmentalize it and understand like, well, yes, I agree, but also what do I do with this now?
Yeah.
So what does Azi think about on her bus ride home after she's just realized she's trying to create her father in her boyfriend?
It just sounds awful when I even hear it, but very true.
But definitely not alone, and many people experience the same thing.
You actually like you attract, you go find people that they trigger in you, your old wounds. That's I think that's a healing opportunity for me that I think was being presented to me at 16. To be honest, I don't remember my bus back home, but I think since I was a kid, I was quite a reflective kid. So I was always journaling. So I'm pretty sure at some point I did write it in there, and I did reflect back. But I don't think, like I say I wish I had money to go back, but I also part of me wonders, was I ready to go back? Right? Because she opened it up. She told me. It got me thinking.
Yeah.
Did I get away from the relationship? No.
Of course. We've all been guilty of going back one time, 10 times, whatever it is, until you're like, oh, okay, I'm choosing this.
Yeah. But definitely started something in me. Like, I like to think that she planted some seeds. She definitely planted some seeds in there. And I think I like to just to think, I don't know, they probably didn't grow maybe till 12 years later.
Okay.
Like the way that I wanted.
The seed was planted. Spoiler alert. I think we've already mentioned we end up marrying said boyfriend, as one does. And then did that happen in Iran, or did you guys come to Canada first?
No, you actually asked me a question. I'm going to go back to this because it was an important question. I was thinking about this. He was actually one of the most important reasons I came to Canada.
Okay.
Because my mom and I, like, we were just like arguing constantly, especially after I started dating him in Iran. I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend in my family. Okay. My family wasn't so conservative and like that way, but still, for a 16-year-old girl, like we had this whole drama with my brother and my mom. So lots of fights. She didn't like him at all. That didn't help. So lots of fights. So I think he was actually the one who suggested. So he knew my dad left the country, got married, has a kid, lives in Canada. At this point, I'm not really in touch with my dad, with the pressure of my mom calling him to ask for money, which I hated it. So let's say in the 17 years that like he was gone, good 5 conversations on the phone. That's it. And I was like, oh man, every time I don't want to talk to this guy. I don't know him. He left when I was 3.5. So he started telling me, why don't you go stay, like, ask your dad to take you. So that kind of planted something, and we talked about it. And then, that was like, I think I was around 17, 18. I wrote a letter to my dad and I said, okay, like, please bring me here. I want to go to school. I want to do this. I want to do that. And that happened. And then I forgot your question now.
No, that's okay. So in terms of now you come here, or you're together. So you came here first by yourself?
Yes, okay. Yeah. So I came here. we were together for 5 years. I came here, and obviously when I came here, I think things were like kind of being more apparent to me. Like I was in this beautiful new country, sense of freedom. Never felt this in my life. I honestly feel like I'm in heaven. Stayed with him a little bit on and off. Broke up for a full-on year. I broke up with him. I'm like, okay, I don't think it's working. I don't think I'm gonna come back to Iran. I'm gonna come visit. Broke up for a year. Went back to visit after 3 years. There's a family. And then he kind of showed up and we kind of reconnected, asked me like, oh, I think we should get married. And I'm like, I don't want to get married. I'm not ready to get married.
Yeah.
Until the day I was at the airport. He came to kind of say goodbye to me with my family. And my family was like super shocked because he was there and he came. And they knew he's asking. And I'm saying, I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I want to do it. And then I come back to Canada. I want to say a month later. I changed my mind. I feel this deep sense of loneliness.
Yep.
Feeling it back in 16. Now it's back in Canada. I'm more in touch with it, being with family, now back in the alone.
Yep.
So I call him up and I say, so okay, let's do it. Let's get married.
Yep.
And yeah, just to get out of that deep sense of loneliness.
And I think we've all had moments where it's kind of like the idea of a quick fix, knowing it's not, but in that moment, it's going to give you what you're desperately wanting. And then you make what can sometimes be a longer term decision to walk back from, depending on where that goes. And then but with schooling, did you come in already knowing what you wanted to come to Canada school for?
No, actually.
Or when did that focal point kind of land of like, this is what I want to do?
Yeah. So that interaction with the woman is always like an image, like in my head. But I think I had, we had this guest instructor in high school in one of the courses, and he came and he talked about psychology of colors. And it kind of really hooked me just about the whole psychology, like brown is this, like that's why they use it in court and that. Right. It's just silly, but it got me thinking. I think that was another initiation. And then when I came here, I was ESL. Not fluent in English, even though I started taking English courses, but it's so different to live in the environment. So I had to study for about a year and a half. I actually take English courses. My goal was to go to UBC. Didn't still know exactly what I wanted to study. Had some idea. So I was like leaning towards, maybe I want to be a lawyer. But psychology is also very interesting to me. So after I finished a year and a half of English essays, I had no idea how to write an essay. And then I started taking a criminology course, a psychology course. And then I saw how I was like so fascinated. My people, listeners who probably know Psych 101. Like even though it's like so minimal, like, oh my God, it's so fascinating. So I was also thriving in it more. And it just felt closer to my heart. So I think that kind of helped me to see this is kind of like the route that I want to go. Yeah.
And then so was it, what kind of coincided? I'll go kind of like head to head, completing school and realizing you're in a relationship you didn't want to be in while deciding to be a counselor. Like how did it all kind of come to a head of making some big decisions? You're in a new country, like you mentioned, you're just still learning, but basically just learned another language. And you're obviously in a city that is very multicultural, but definitely English is going to be the main piece. And there's already going to be, I can only imagine, a lot of significant cultural differences from the way people interact and make friend groups. So was it a perfect melting pot of all the things, or sort of how did it kind of erupt into your ownership of choice?
Yeah. It was a lot of living in the library, let's say. And I'm not exaggerating. Downtown Public Library. For me to be able to pass some of my tests, I would go there 9 a.m, come back home at 9. Because that's how much I needed to put effort. Whereas you, like someone English speaking, probably needed to just like 2 hours of studying. I had to find a dictionary and just find the meaning of the words and then kind of memorizing them. So definitely a challenge, but even in the cultural way, like, so I did get accepted in UBC and I did quite well. I was like, because I was living in the library. I even remember writing my first essay ever. It was actually for my criminology course. I'm not exaggerating. I lived in my instructor's office. Like, I would write a page because it was my first essay. And I'm like, what the hell is an essay?
Yeah.
Right? Even though like I learned in English and we would like in our like write it in our ESL class. Like, I don't know how to write an essay, but I chose gun control topic to just write about it. So I would write a page and my instructor was amazing. I would just go back to him, can you please read this and give me some feedback? And he was so kind. Give me some feedback. I would go fix it, come back. Can you please read it? And it was only 8 pages. Right? Like now it sounds silly that I've written so many papers. And then I actually ended up failing my midterm.
Oh, no.
Because it was so hard. That criminology course, it's the terms. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? What do you mean? What's that? Like, but I ended up like living in the library technically and just kind of back and forth. I never actually forget this moment. My instructor walked into me. I was sitting in a cafeteria in Douglas College before I like literally transferred to UBC because I did that before I transferred into UBC. And he come to me and he said, you ended up with one of the highest marks in the class. Your final exam was A+. You ended up with A- because your midterm was so awful. Yeah. But he was so blown away. And I felt so proud. So definitely didn't come easy.
Yeah.
And even culturally, of course, like sometimes I look back and I'm like, when I went to UBC, it was just studying. I didn't join any clubs, anything. I didn't even know. I was thinking today, I'm like, you know how like you watching TV shows and people are like part of clubs and partying? Yeah. I didn't do any of that. It's like, you know, vision, just like go to school, study. You need to get through this. You need to make yourself, because like I knew if I didn't do this, my life would turn out to be like my parents.
Right.
And that was like pushing me. I'm like, I don't want that.
For sure. That this was your opportunity of past to be like, choose something different.
Yeah. So all of it was like, Friends was how I learned to speak English truly, right? I kind of disconnected a little bit from the Persian culture, Persian music. I've had Persian friends, but like even when I would see them, I'm like, can we speak English?
Yeah.
Because I really want to learn. I started listening to radio because I'm like, I need to be fluent.
Yeah.
Because if any way I'm to survive in this country, in this beautiful place, my getaway card, my heaven, I just got to really immerse myself into it because I don't want to have the life that I had in Iran. I just don't want it. Yeah.
So you continue definitely persevering and going all in to get through school, get to the end game, which you end up going to Alder, right?
Adler, yeah.
Adler. And I was like, yes, it's like a tree, but not a tree. Adler University kind of complete.
It's a famous psychologist,
Yes. To complete that program and get into psychotherapy and all the amazing things. Obviously, through those type of programs, not only are you learning about being a therapist, you're going into getting your own therapy as well, because how can you really do unto others if you're not really introspecting and understanding more about yourself?
You'd be surprised, actually.
We'll get into a while like who does that, but talk to me a little bit about kind of like going through that and starting to unpack and really understand what it meant to come from the family dynamic you were from and how it shaped you and where you were at and how you wanted to really go forward. Because it's a one thing to say, I don't want that. It's another thing to actually start to do the work and begin to heal, to just not inevitably end up just like that.
Exactly, yeah. So I knew a part of me didn't want that. But so unfortunately, programs in Canada, they don't encourage you to do your own psychotherapy work. So that's some in Europe they do. So I was at this point maybe 2 sessions in counseling. I can't remember why I went. I wasn't really in counseling. So when I started my master's program, I got married, I think about my 3rd year in UBC. And the first year that I started my master's program, it was the year that my ex and I started having a lot of issues. So I started my program in January of, I believe, some 2012. He moved out of our apartment March of 2012 for a year. Came back, the whole journey. But it was Jen actually that so I'm just new in this program, and it's counseling programs do that actually. They even tell you a little bit. Expect relationships to fall apart, because especially if you haven't done a lot of counseling, you're coming to this program, things are like kind of like a little bit on your face, like you're talking about like trauma and stuff.
I'm sure you're reading some things. You're like, oh yeah, that's me.
yeah. Or like that, diagnosing yourself. Like I have that and I have that and I have this other thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it wasn't until actually he left that actually pushed me, because I became, even though I instigated it a little bit, like I kept saying, obviously, the anxious protest.
Takes two. Yeah.
I want to leave, but I didn't have the courage to leave. I knew it wasn't sitting well. Like when I think about what it felt in my body, I remember the memory of my body, how I felt.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the courage to leave because he was my attachment figure, actually. He made it from 16. The reason I married him, he was my attachment figure. Yeah. I had so many attachment injuries. I had nobody. I had no safe attachment with my mom.
Staple point.
Yeah, he was my safe, even though unhealthy, he was my attachment figure. Yeah. So it's quite difficult for me to leave. So I kept saying, I leave. I didn't leave. He ended up leaving because he got sick of me saying I want to leave.
Yeah, the empty threat. Yeah.
the anxious protest. And then that's what pushed me to actually go seriously in therapy, because I became the 3.5-year-old kid whose father just left. And I just went actually through counseling from work. I was working at school with kids back in the day. So I didn't even have like lots of money to fully go pay. But I reached out to this system that we had in school, found this person, went to her, I think I want to say, Jenna, 15 sessions. But if you ask me what the therapist told me in this 15 sessions, I don't remember. Mm-hmm. All I remember is me sobbing, like entering the room in an extremely dysregulated place. Now I know the word now. I didn't know back then what that is.
Yeah.
And just talking and sobbing and talking, like literally. Mm-hmm. Like, Azi, 3.5, dad just left.
Yeah.
Doesn't want you. No matter what you do, he's not coming back. Mm-hmm. And I think the therapist did the best she could. I don't think I was ready maybe to hear a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. My dad came up a little bit. The only thing I wish maybe she would have just told me, just lay it out there, right? That say, crying for him. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing. Yeah. But I don't know. I can't judge. I was in a pretty bad state. Sometimes I'm would I have been receptive to it? Yeah. I don't know. But like,
hindsight's always 20/20. Where you look back, you're like, I wish I just.
yeah. Girl, you're crying for your dad. Mm-hmm. This is not about him. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so what did that... So I would assume it probably would have solidified your choice that this was the path, or it could have had an alternative effect where like, whoa, this is too much. I can't ask people to do this. But obviously I think that is probably where you decided to kind of like go deeper, because that was your calling. And I always think that the best counselors, therapists, any type of healer has a lot of personal experiences that are generally pretty deep and in a wide variety of spectrums. Because how can you sit with somebody in pain if you've never experienced immense pain yourself? It's pretty impossible to like understand how everything can shut down in your body in that moment. Was that the kind of sessions that got you through school till you were able to kind of like graduate from like a school perspective and come out and find your sort of next person that came into your life? Or how did it kind of cascade for you in terms of your growth, but also from a career perspective?
I think, I was loving my program, so there was no way. I remember I actually connected with, that was later on, I think. So I kept seeing her. She did help a lot, but in this process of a year, I wasn't ready to let go of him. Mm-hmm. So I kept insisting that we get back together. The anxious protest, if you don't come back, I'm going to file for divorce. Yeah. The threat, he came back after a year. Mm-hmm. And it was 1.5 years after that, like 2 months after I actually graduated, that he told me again that he wants to walk away again. That this is not sitting well. And again, I wasn't still like saying it, but that's the time that I think I was ready to let go. But the program was amazing. I think I I think I knew I wanted to do this. At this point, it was pretty clear cut. Like I have done 3 years of crisis counseling. So I had a taste of what it feels like, like how to show up. So even I remember we did some couples counseling in the year and a half that he came back. And I remember one of the couples counselors, even a little bit before it, then when he wasn't coming back, actually it was in that year, when he wasn't coming back, she suggested, because I was in a pretty bad shape, like I would cry before work, after work. Like I would give her my permission, like to cry. I'm like, okay, put it together, go to work. You have to pull through, go to school, then you come home and you can cry.
Yeah.
And she even suggested that I take like a break from school. But school was keeping me sane. It was actually the constant. And because I was so passionate about it,
Right.
I think at that point I knew that's my calling. And it was towards the end of my program and how I ended up at a private practice and stuff that I think the image from my 16-year-old therapist was becoming more, that's what I want, because I didn't know exactly. And I was like kind of envisioning myself like in an office.
With the suit.
Yeah. And beautiful shoes. And that's, I think, what I want to do. I want to have an office. I'm going to be in an office. But yeah, not doing it was never. I think actually there were moments in the program. I don't think I shared it in the class, but with some of my classmates I shared. I was like carrying a lot of shame that I'm in separation. So I went through my whole program, lots of people not knowing, but I would say I'm going through something and this is resonating because of this. But yeah.
And so the decision, so he came back, now you've done couples counseling. Was it the decision made in couples counseling that there was, like, it's time to divorce?
No, actually. No, I think that's where I become a little bit critical of couples therapists. No, I wish. Actually, it wasn't. We were just kind of like, I think it was my threats actually that made him come back. Because I said, and I don't think he was fully ready to let go. And my anxious protest, okay, it's been a year. You either come back or I'm filing for divorce. Yeah. So he came back.
And we're both, still both in similar patterns of knowing what to expect. Yeah.
And, but no, like I wish actually, like when I reflect back now as a couples therapist, I'm like, it could have, but no, we kind of went back. We didn't really repair much stuff because there was a big rupture, like the biggest rupture between him and I that made us to go, which I told him leave, and then I changed my mind and then he left. That wasn't repaired. We just kind of brushed over it. Maybe he didn't want to lose me. I didn't want to lose him. We came back. And then obviously when the repair is not done, I was still kept feeling like I'm never the priority.
Right.
It's his family is there. I would never be his number one. And that was the feeling that was always there. I just sucked it up a little bit more.
Right.
Because I was like, I'm going to give this marriage my 150%. And then I see where it goes. So when he told me after a year and a half, like a week after attending my graduation ceremony, which I was quite mad at, I was like, that's it. I'm done. You're leaving now. We're done. I'm closing this chapter. And I'll file for divorce. And you're signing it. Because I'm done being on this emotional roller coaster with you. I don't want to be on it anymore. I just want to move away from it. So, so no, that decision came from the both of us.
I like it. So we're standing, I'll say, as firmly planted on 2 feet as we can after a big decision of walking away from something that was such a huge part of your life, but also this kind of source of a bunch of things of like perceived stability, also of pain, of a bunch of things associated with this person. Now you've just also graduated and about to start a career. So you get into a private practice. And what is the first day of being, I'll call it like on your own as a therapist, but also like still in your own inner turmoil quite strong?
Oh, wow. I remember it. Yeah. I think I kind of use my pain to help people, actually. I kind of transfer because I actually find it even now, which is when you're so raw and you open, like your heart is open. So I do find it like you connect with your clients in a different way, right? So I think that actually probably helped me a little bit in some ways, because I'm going through this separation and divorce, and I'm coming to help you. And ironically, sometimes you do get those clients that are actually going through separation, and I kind of learned, oh, I can share that with them, and then they can see that they're not alone. I would share it more a little bit later on when I was more regulated about it.
Of course.
But what I did, just the only thing that I know I was mindful was that my supervisor she hired me, gave me my first counseling job. Super grateful today to her. Found a job a week after my ex left, which I don't know why.
Yeah.
I was looking for jobs for 3 months.
Things kind of sometimes just happen as they're supposed to.
I know, this is my gift, and I'm in the office I wanted it.
Yeah.
I'm wearing not the suit because that's just too much for wearing it in the office here. But I actually told her that I just separated. And then because she was going to ask me if I could do couples counseling. And I said, don't send me any couples now. I'm not ready. I'm working through my own shit.
Yeah.
And I do not want my own shit to come actually on them. So give me a little bit of time. And I also kind of want to do some training because actually in grad school, I never imagined I would do couples counseling. Never. Everybody knew Azi's going to end up working with kids because I was working with kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it kind of worked out. I remember my very, very first consultation, my very first 2 consultations that turned out to be clients. Super excited. They we ended up booking right away, and I was like, wow, like I can on my own.
Yeah.
There's no supervisor.
This is
We're gonna
happening.
do this.
Yeah.
This is happening. There's no videos. Nobody's watching my videos.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but you know what I mean. And one of them actually ended up being a long-term client till she had to move away. And we did some really good, deep healing work together.
And as long as you start to kind of bring on clients, I imagine that little pieces of you can kind of get healed while watching somebody else work through something or being a part of that. You kind of get a bit of that like recognition, or you end up seeing yourself in that person a lot of the time. But did you start to kind of realize, so in therapy there's so many different approaches and modalities, and like some therapists focus really hardcore on a certain style, others are very holistic and change their approach based on the person. When did you start to decide or understand kind of what your approach was going to be, and if you were going to have a certain type of style, I guess, what that was going to be for you?
I think like when you're fresh out of school, you just it's basic training.
Yeah.
Right? Just hold a container and empathize. But I was just like reading a lot because I was like thirsty to learn. I was like literally chasing my supervisor like a puppy.
Yeah.
Like she would open her mouth, I'm just writing. What you saying? Okay, I'll go buy this book. Right? So at first it starts like quite general. I was quite person-centered, knew a little bit of CBT. But honestly, I think I started implementing a little bit of what I was reading in the books. Some of the books that I was reading, I think, especially one of them keeps to my mind a lot. And then it was through some of my own work, some specific books that I read, that as I go this and I work with my clients and I'm like, I want to take this person in here.
Yeah.
I don't know how to take them in there.
Right.
Right? So then you start taking trainings, like you do CBT, okay, fine, you can change your thoughts, and for trauma, because I was actually trying to use it with some clients I specifically remember with trauma, and like I can see it goes back in a circle.
Right.
And that's why like nowadays I know that like we say like you can't think your way out of your traumas, right?
No. You can try.
You can. So then gradually kind of expand, like take EFT couples counseling training. I think that was CBT, EFT. And then I found the more deep healing one, the more somatic attachment-based AEDP. I don't think I found it till like probably about 4 years, I want to say. In. So it was a lot of exploring different things, like 2-day workshops here, evolution of psychotherapy, like a whole bunch of people speaking for a week.
Yep.
And I explored enough to say, and then when I found AEDP, which is one of the approaches that I use, I'm like, this is my home, right? Because it's psychodynamic. You dive deep. This is some of the things I'm reading in this book, Healing Your Inner Child.
Yeah.
this is doing it, but in like a trained professional way of it's giving me skills, because I'm like, okay, I'm just like kind of going with this.
Like
I
a
have
process to the feelings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have the capacity to do it, but I'm stuck. I don't have the tools. So what do I do in here when the client is not? So, and then you get introduced to somatic work. So
Yeah.
and it was with ADP first that I truly felt this is my home. And then obviously EFT like combined with it. So I did actually my trainings, like I think more deeper in like 4 years and 3.5. Yeah. Deep, like to just kind of like really be specializing in that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so to keep it, we'll call it on the more professional side for a moment. So you're within a private practice, you're, getting your legs underneath you in terms of who you are, how to communicate, build a client base. But then you want to make a decision that you want to go out on your own. So what kind of caused that? And was there anything kind of also happening, I guess, on a personal healing front that allowed you to say those words out loud?
Oh, man. Oh, man. Yes. Woman of color.
Yeah.
You do not know your rights sometimes. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you're better than me, but I was fresh out of school, first counseling job. And don't get me wrong, super grateful.
Yeah.
Super grateful for the opportunity. I learned so much and I needed to have that, because I wasn't the kind of person to just jump into
it was like your foundation building. Yeah.
And some people do it, but I wanted to become this is actually something my supervisor told me one day that I so appreciated. She told me, you want to learn how to become a therapist first before you want to learn how to become a businesswoman. Because if you start them both at the same time, the business part would take over.
Yeah.
So I only focused on therapy. And then I learned obviously about the business parts as I'm going. So I think it started with kind of like some unsettling feelings that I need to be getting a little bit more. I'm doing pretty well. And then I kind of asked, like, I kind of want this and I want that. It wasn't just even money, it was opportunities. I was admiring my supervisor quite a lot. Maybe she became my attachment figure, right? The person I didn't have, but she was also quite smart, and I always admired her.
Inspirational attachment figure. That's
yes,
all right.
yeah. So I kind of wanted her to see in me what I was seeing in me. And maybe she was seeing it because I was thriving there. So she would give me the things, but I wanted recognition. Yeah. I wanted like Azi, 6 more months, you can do this. We can put you into this training, we can do that. And I think it was more of that I realized, and it's bad to say, I was more attached to her and I was wanting to have a relationship with her than she wanted to have with me. And
craving more of that mentorship dynamic. Yeah.
And she even told me at some point, because I was like trying to learn so about her, and she's like, maybe I write a book and you get to read it one day. And you know what? And that's her boundary, and that was fine. So, and all of the combination of that, it took me 1.5 years from the time that something started with me, ouch, that's not fair. Like, that's really not fair, to 1.5 years of bringing up the courage to say, oh man, walk into the office and say, here's my letter of resignation and I'm leaving. And we had to give like quite a long kind of notice.
Yeah.
But I think, and again, I don't know, because of all my attachment injuries, leaving things are difficult for me.
Yeah. Makes total sense.
So like you could have, some people say 1.5 years, but I talked and talked and talked, and I'm so sorry to my friends that because they had to hear it for 1.5 years. I'm leaving. No, I'm not leaving. How can I leave my clients behind?
Yeah, pattern behaving. Yes.
I'm leaving. I don't. I know I deserve more. That I can't leave.
Yeah.
You know? So, but now knowing that, like I learned it over the years that I need to be compassionate to myself because of my attachment injuries. That it takes me a little bit of a longer time to leave things. Because of that attachment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think that, obviously self-awareness is super important, but I think then you can set up what I always like to call kind of like your people around you to help move through that until eventually you kind of need those safety mechanisms less and less. So you get up the courage to leave and go on your own. And I'm curious where you were at that point from a healing perspective. while that's happening have we found our, like, kind of, we'll call it our person as a therapist to work with ongoing? Is it still everything's on shaky ground? Like, where was the level set to that? Because it's got to be on your way, because you're kind of creating a new sense of, like, almost uncertainty around you by doing it.
Yeah, for sure. My supervisor, actually, I asked for a recommendation from her. So she connected me to a therapist. I think at this point, she's my 3rd or 4th kind of therapist. She's the first one that at this point I started doing more serious kind of therapy. My first probably therapy, because I don't consider that 15 session really, that was just grieving, me crying. It was super helpful. But so I started seeing her. And this is actually before I even started leaving to go on my own. And I remember actually she was even part of the process when I told her that I kind of want to leave, and she knew, my supervisor, and she even had to reassure me, don't worry about it, you can talk to me about it. I'm not going to go tell her that you're thinking about leaving. The fears that come up when you're trying to leave something. But so I was working with her in total about 2 years. Definitely this is where trauma started coming up, more awareness. Okay, this like, what's happening? I was seeing her sometimes once a week, then I would not go for 2 weeks, not for 2 months. It was on and off consistent, but overall for 2 years.
Yeah.
She helped me a lot. There are certain sentences that she told me that are in my head, like vivid. Right? You take things away.
Of course.
But how I ended up, I think at some point I realized my traumas are too big for her.
So I think that's an important point to stop at. There's 2 pieces I want to touch on, because I think that people looking into counseling can have a lot of good experiences, bad experiences. I think whether you do in person or virtual or whatever mode works best for you. 2 things are interesting. Does your counselor have a supervisor or some form of that they check in with to do their own work? But also, working with a counselor is not necessarily meant to be a forever thing. You can outgrow them. You can get into a couple sessions and feel fundamentally that this is not right for me and I need somebody else. And I always say that looking for a counselor is kind of like Cinderella looking for her prince. Sometimes, like, you got to, like, kiss a few toads along the way to find somebody that's really that person for you. And so what would be kind of your perspective for somebody, like, looking at that, like, because sometimes you'd be like, it's just so exhausting. Like, I don't want to have to go tell another person everything that I've gone through.
Yeah. And I understand that, but the idea of you outgrowing your counselor does happen. And it has happened to me.
Yeah.
You know, I've had clients and they're like, I think I want to work on this piece.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do that. They can always come back, or they have gone and not come back. They've ended up on a place. But I think it's very normal. And because the you today is different from the 2 years before.
100%.
Your needs are different. You like, I worked through a lot of stuff with her, but she had training in trauma. She was trauma informed, but she wasn't a trauma therapist. She couldn't pull the things out of me. She had a little bit of CBT in her, and this is bad, because as I was sitting there at times and I'm like, you should not be talking right now. You should be asking me this to take me deeper in this. But I think something that you actually mentioned in the beginning, and I had a lot of, like, big traumas, and it's a lot of pain.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't have the right tools and you don't know what to do with it, you unconsciously kind of direct the client a little bit away from it. So I was noticing that a little bit, and I actually remember specifically there were a couple of pieces that came up that I think kind of made me a little bit. Like, obviously we started with my dad and a little bit with my mom.
Yeah, parents is where we begin. Yeah.
But the abandonment was with my dad. We worked through some of the stuff with that, because I was at this point having on and off relationship with my dad. My mom started coming in, And then it was actually with her that this is actually the first time I'm talking about this. I'm going to do it anyways. The memory, the flashbacks of my sexual abuse was starting to come back to me.
Mm.
And it was with her.
Yeah.
And it was like, because that's what happens, as you dig deeper, your brain gives you more access.
It's wild as you start to like heal or do things. You're like, oh,
yeah,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, so I even remember what I told her. Like, I'm like, no, that's not real. That's not real. What the fuck?
Right.
Are you serious?
Totally.
At this point, I'm like 33 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did my mom compartmentalize this? 32 years of my life? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
So it's coming up, and all I did, and I actually told her, it was towards the end of the session, I remember, I told her, I don't even remember what she said, but I said, something is coming up, I have something to share with you, but we're running out of time, but I'm saying it to you. So when I come back, you hold me accountable, so I will share it with you, because I've never shared it with anybody. So, and we shared it, and it was nice. She was trauma, but I think it was around that time that I'm like, I think I need a different therapist.
Yeah.
And then I switched.
Yeah.
And then I found my DL, my therapist, which he's amazing. He's fantastic. 5 years of constant work with him. Even now, I'm actually at the point that I had a conversation with him and I'm like, Dale, I think I'm exploring this other thing with other therapists. I'm probably going to go back to him. He's going to be my checking point. But 5 years of I'm sitting there every 2 weeks, no matter what. I have to process a lot of shit with him.
Yeah.
But that's sometimes you have to do, because I loved her. She was amazing, right? I had an attachment to her too, but I knew that
in that moment,
outgrow her. Like the Azi at this age, like I changed. My goals were different. I didn't think she could walk me through it.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's for anybody who doesn't do that as a profession. So I love watching couples counseling. Shout out to Orna on TV. And she does couples counseling, but she does all different. So you see all different dynamics, all different same-sex couples, non-binary, like heterosexual couples going through this like wide variety of issues. But what they flash to, which I think is important, is one, her meeting with her supervisor about her clients, and then also in a group with a bunch of other doctors of different modalities and chatting, especially if she's stuck or in a couple like, I'm getting through to her, he hates me and he doesn't want to let me in, and like I've done this approach. So also coming to a point to make sure, can I actually serve this couple with what they need if they can't be separated, and people having really adverse reactions and feeling that kind of sense of safety. So I think that, from your perspective, if, people aren't as obsessed as watching that show as I am, why would you want to, in kind of meeting with your therapist, maybe ask the question, which might seem like a really bold question for a possible patient to ask their therapist, is, do you have a supervisor or do you have your own therapist that you work through your stuff with? And if they say yes, why is that important? If they say no, why is that also maybe no. a question, but a cause for concern?
Oh, I hope they say no. They don't say no.
But when you were talking about sharing a moment, right, of something that you just uncovered,
I know,
and it's coming up, it's either going to be the thing that propels you forward or could potentially take you back 15 steps.
Oh, you mean the moment that I shared in that therapist?
Uncovering. So, but why sometimes also this can be important outside of maybe just outgrowing somebody, but for somebody that's not, in that field, that feels that feeling of that's not what I needed. But maybe trying to give people a little bit more understanding of maybe before you get to that point, or just understanding a little bit more about how to pick the best therapist for yourself.
And to be fair, in that moment when I shared it with her, to her credit, no, she did show up. But to take me later on to further to process it, I don't think she could. Just to her credit, because I don't want, in case she ever hears this. But I would say for sure, ask about the therapist doing the therapy. For sure. because the therapist, like our body, like you're supposed to have a supervisor. It's not ethical, you know? So I think most of us are pretty good at having a supervisor.
But sometimes like I get a lot of people don't know that that's supposed to happen, generally.
I'm having a hard time even believing that someone would not have a supervisor.
No, I'm saying that people coming in wouldn't know that.
They should have it. But I think...
But just to understand why.
You should, of course. I mean, it's part of our ethics. Like when you go to school, when you register with RCC or CCC, supervision.
It's also an era of therapists and guides and people not necessarily always looking for, yes, I'm a therapist, but I'm a registered clinical counselor. Like what that means. So even just, I think those are really important points for people to understand why those are there and what that means.
Because it's not ethical.
Yeah.
Because you have blind sides. Because you will for sure get stuck with your clients.
Yeah.
And it's not even, let's say you're just the most skilled therapist on this planet. You have like stuff comes up. Like I've had pieces of me with the avoidant partners with couples counseling coming up that if I wasn't talking to my couples counselor supervisor, because we have different ones, I wouldn't have seen it that I'm in a dynamic with him, right? I'm being the anxious attachment. He's being the avoidant. He's being it with me, right? So you should ask it, but just know that it's not ethical to not have it. And like you should have it, training, supervision. Like I think typically I see people, if in general I see most they are having supervision, that's like a must. Or what I usually more worry about is people not doing their own work, actually, from my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because even when I see people, because a lot of places actually, like if you get hired in an agency, supervision is actually there already.
Right.
And in like even in the private practice, if you've worked with somebody, supervision comes with it. You know, it's only if you're at your own private practice and you work solo that, again, I would have a very hard time believing someone doesn't seek supervision.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only point. But it just kind of comes with it, really. Like, because everybody's like, you work here, I need to supervise you at the same time. Otherwise, I don't kind of like hire you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you could ask. Yeah. I think I actually love it when people come ask me. Nobody has ever asked me about supervision. I have mentioned it myself. But I've had people, I mean, I share to people that I'm in therapy, and I've had people asking me.
Yeah.
But no, I love it.
Yeah.
Interview your therapist.
Well, that's what I'm like, there's points where people are like, oh, because they are coming to seek help that they don't feel like they have power in the situation. And I think, again, you know, before we even started, we're talking about how vulnerability is such a tough thing, regardless of being the one who encourages it, other people are taking it in. But to know that regardless of that level you're about to go to, you want to make sure you're safe, and you don't want to ever put yourself in a situation with the wrong person that can't handle what you're about to tell them, even if the end of it might be, I think there's somebody else better suited to help you, but know that you're completely cared for and safe throughout that process. Exactly. And so I just think it's always so super important to highlight, because even when I was talking with Kyla and like breath work has gotten so popular, but again, like anything where there's things that are unregulated or some regulations of how do you go about finding a practitioner that's really going to help you, and what do you want to be careful of? And I think that empowering people to make the best decisions, to put the best people around them, to get them to a better version of themselves it needs to be coming from such an empowered place, and know that they have that power, and there's nothing wrong in them, like, quote unquote, firing somebody after meeting them and like, no, I don't want to work with you. It's not a right fit.
Exactly.
And so we met through a business group. You were on your own building said solo practice at that time. And this is before COVID hit. And we'll get into the call that I think is one of like the best calls that I've ever gotten from somebody about wanting to work with me and why. But as you were, dealing and uncovering what is traumatic and feeling that and moving through that, on top of helping people through their traumas. And we chat about this as we started to talk about like favorite books, and we both have a general love for Gabor Maté. And I love the book The Body Keeps Score. And I think later in life, I got more understanding of how your body stores all that tension and trauma, what it's going to give you, and like little kind of knock-knocks along the way before it gives you like a doof. Of like, hey, pay attention to me. I don't like what you're doing anymore. You need to change it. What was your parallels or experiencing as you're in healing, actively building, and then health combined in that of like overall physical well-being outside of trying to mentally function?
Yeah, wonderful question. I love Gabor Maté.
Who doesn't?
He has changed my life, like his books, like the awareness. So 2 weeks after I got married, I started showing some symptoms actually that I know now. They're symptoms of multiple sclerosis, MS.
And what did you chalk them off as at that moment?
I'm just having blurred vision. I remember in my UC class, I'm like, it's just like my eyes doing this weird thing. What's happening?
Or you're like, I'm just stressed. This is why.
Stressed, right? Like I don't think I actually even had the like awareness to say this is just stress, because there was chaos. When I broke the news to my family, getting married, my body was in full stress. Like I know it now. I go to Iran, 2 weeks, get married, come back. 2 weeks later, I start having double vision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting in a big conference room in UBC, 300 people in it. I can't see the board.
Mm-hmm.
What's this? So ignore it. Typical me, whatever. It goes away, because that's what relapsed remitting MS does to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It comes and it goes. So this, I know now.
Yeah. But it's always important. It was like to ask, like, what did you scoff off? Because there's so many people, I'm like, you might want to pay attention to that.
God, pay attention to your body. Don't be, I'm not saying be a hypochondriac, but when things coming up, notice. Don't, especially, unfortunately, with our medical system. So I think a couple of months in, I don't remember how long but my friends like, go see an optometrist. I don't know when maybe a couple of months. I can't remember. I went, checked. Nothing is there.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors, you're all good to go. Okay. I ignored it. But then once in a while, this keeps coming back. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Is this the weather? Like, am I like tired? Am I sleepy? So it keeps going on and on and on till it becomes more and more. And then one day I'm noticing the double vision has become permanent.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at my left and I see two visions.
And for the record, she hasn't been drinking.
I haven't been drinking. No, I haven't. And then I'm like, okay, this is something. So I think I made 3 attempts of going to seeing a doctor, giving up. And then it was actually in Iran. My ex-mother-in-law, she was getting concerned. And she's like, let me take you to Iran and just see what's this is about that comes and goes. And it's starting to kind of be a little bit permanent. In Iran, doctors are fantastic diagnosticians, right? Quickly, you go in, they can figure it out. Unfortunately, so I went and like in a matter of like, I don't know, like less than a day, I saw a neurologist, put some things on my head.
Yep.
He told me, go do an MRI tomorrow. He was hinting at some stuff, but didn't tell me.
Right.
I'm leaving tomorrow to come back to Canada. And I come back here, beg my doctors, please send me for an MRI. Why? What's wrong? There's nothing wrong with you. We can't send you for MRI. Send me for CT scan. MRI doesn't show, CT scan doesn't show MS. I give up again.
Yeah.
And then it became more permanent. I do a little bit of research on my own. I'm like, he said this and this. And then the first time the word MS popped up. I'm like, interesting. Maybe a year, 2 years later, okay, this permanent is bothering me. Go start the process, ophthalmologist, back. No, is this MS? No, this is not MS. There's no way. Go see a neuro-ophthalmologist. Is this MS? No, there's no way this is MS. We can do a surgery for you to fix it. Let's do the surgery. 2 weeks after, I can get my MRI because it's just so hard to get MRI in this country. And sorry. And actually, I was going to say, sorry, I'm not sorry. I didn't have money to do a private MRI. Yeah. In Iran, it's cheap. You go do it. I should have done it there. But anyways. And then, like literally a month after, maybe the MRI results comes, and here we go. You got MS.
Yeah.
Clinically isolated syndrome MS, which means I only had one attack.
Okay.
That's why it was more complicated for everybody to diagnose it. But I mean, keep in mind, if someone pushed a little bit more.
Right. Listen to what you were asking for too, once you kind of had a bit more of an idea of like, no, I think it's not just eye flutter.
It's not an eye flutter, right? And I have no idea, and like didn't go to the hospital. Maybe they would have figured out. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But this is the start of me, like the window. I don't think at this point I don't think I knew who Gabor Maté was. So I was diagnosed after 9 years of doctors not knowing what's happening with me. And me
I didn't realize it was that long.
9 years. From 2009, February is when I started having my symptoms. 2017, they told me you got MS. And I was, give up, go back, give up, go back. I'm tired. Are you going to tell me what's up? Maybe it's nothing. They're saying, one of the doctors and neurologists told me it's because of your birth control.
Oh, that's an interesting take on
Yeah.
it. Like that. I don't think that was on my side effect list, but that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So when was I can't even remember when I came across Gabor Maté's book. Because at this point, I'm like, okay, I got MS. Not even typical me. Shame. Not even sharing it with a lot of people. I think only probably one of my friends knew.
Yeah.
For the longest time. Honestly, I want to say maybe 2020.
Okay.
That I started, I don't know, probably around that time. I came across Gabor's Maté book, my favorite book, When Your Body Says No. And I read this chapter and I hit this, I don't even remember, chapter 6, it says multiple sclerosis. And I'm like, excuse me?
Did you just call me out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm reading this and I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. But I'm processing my stuff.
Yeah.
I'm processing my stuff. And at this point, I've already had my second attack when half of my arm went numb.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very big argument with my mom over the phone, screaming, yelling, getting angry.
Yeah. Whole nervous system flaring up. Yeah.
Hang up the phone. Went on a trip to Europe. Because usually hits when your body is calm. On the plane ride back, I noticed half of my arm is numb. And I'm like, what the shit? Oh, it's just sleep. And no, okay, it's been a week. It's just sleep shouldn't be this
My arm is
big.
not waking up. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I have a tendency to be on the optimist side, which not so much is good sometimes. It's all good. You'll be fine. Yeah. So yeah, and then I think again, it's probably I want to say my second attack was in 2018 summer. So it makes sense. 2019, 2020, maybe I came across the book, body stuff that I'm like, I'm processing this stuff. And at this point, because I have the relapse remitting kind of MS, I like to think it's the good kind of MS.
Right.
I was diagnosed with that. I'm in remission. So nothing is really happening, but I'm left with a bad eye. Mm-hmm. 2 surgeries in. The second surgery later came on, which didn't fix it. So still issues are going on. And yeah, so that's the whole thing to bring it back.
Yeah.
Okay, something is happening in my body. This is trauma. You got to start drawing boundaries with your family because look what has happened. At least you don't know much, maybe. I mean, right now, today, I know because there's so many pieces came out after that, the last 5 years. But I'm like, boundaries with family. Don't talk with family. Cut this family till you figure this shit out because your body is literally have to turn the volume so up.
Yeah.
Attack itself. Like that's just insane when you read about autoimmune disease. Your body is attacking itself.
I know.
So that's probably was the only way that Azi was going to stop the shit she was doing.
Yeah. And coming from an experience of watching somebody that I was with have an autoimmune disorder and watch them actively not fight the inner turmoil of the traumas, that would help give them some form of peace and just accept that this is going to just be my life. It's a very tough thing to watch. So I think it's so fascinating because hearing even more about, I mean, I know a lot about your story and there's pieces that I don't know all the details about, but like the underlying theme is so interesting already, like listing of what I know of you as a human today, but now seeing of how it progressed and like built in terms of this like definite, although you're more like quiet and sometimes like soft-spoken than in comparison to me, I'll just say that. But like this really strong fighter. mentality, and that once like you get it, you might take longer to like quote unquote get it, but then there's no stopping you. So regardless of this diagnosis, you know, and not letting it completely dismantle you in a way and take down everything around you, you're already doing the work, which I think is a gift in of itself, to be able to be like, okay, like power of choice here to like double down and let's see what I can do if I go further into this work and heal. We stepped out on our own, and then nobody knows that a pandemic is about to hit. We have met. At this point, I think I might have still scared Azi. I'm not sure. I get a phone call and say, I have something I want to tell you. It's a really crazy idea, and I want to talk to you. I'm like, okay, like, I'm like, this is interesting. Like, what is this woman going to tell me? How crazy could this be? I gave up my office. I want to do all my practice online. I want to grow this practice with a bunch of virtual counselors. Is it crazy? Can I do it? And I'm like, I have the biggest smile on my face. I'm like, one, this is not crazy. We can totally do this. Like, how fast do you want to go? Do you want to start now? Do you want to do it in like 30 days? Like, whoa. But it started was a really cool relationship and a dynamic that I hadn't experienced at that time, because I have always worked with traditional entrepreneurs in this sense and not a therapist. And what was amazing is, because you do have the EQ and a very good, strong self-awareness, is that my drive and my push, if it was too much, you did such a good job. Like, can we just slow down? And can you maybe say this a little slower? And like, could we do this in less time? I'm like, of course. But having somebody who just gives you that feedback, like, we can do whatever it is you want to do. It's really fun. And so it was cool to, one, see your style kind of in action, see you grow to a practice of what peak was 7 for you?
Yeah, 7. Yeah. I had interns and 7. Yeah.
Yeah, which was awesome. And then we're kind of like keep pivots of going of power of choice. So still healing, still working through all the things, now building a team and kind of living out that dream of I never thought I could, here I am, and now I can, to having another pivotal moment of saying, also, I don't want this anymore. Which is, by the way, I want to let everybody know the best thing you can say to yourself and be okay with letting that go.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you need to achieve something to know that you can, but you can also get there and realize that it's not what you want to do, and you can make a change at any time. I still fundamentally don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for giving me permission.
They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing right now. Like, well, what do you want to do? What does 5 years look like? What does 10 years? I'm like, well, if I go in this lane, this is what I think it looks like. But if I go in this lane, I think this is what this could look like. I'm like, I'm just going to be open, and I'm going to move and evolve through as I'm supposed to. And you don't have to stay in something just because everybody else is doing it.
No, you don't. No.
And so what for you caused that I don't want to do this anymore?
I think I envisioned it to be somewhat different than it turned out to be. And and you're absolutely right. I could do it.
Yeah.
Right. But I think throughout, when the healing got a little bit deeper, when the psychedelics got involved, which I will talk about that later, some more deeper healing, I realized it was taking away the pieces of me that it was me. Right? So as a therapist, I love my clients. I think they know it. They see it in my eyes.
Yep.
But when I wake up Monday and I have to go do a session, I never say, I have to go to work. When I started developing my team and the marketing, it's a lot of work. Especially I didn't.
People don't realize,
it's a lot of work. If you want it to be successful,
100%.
It's a lot of work. Marketing, having like conversations with people that I don't want to be having.
People management, contracts.
Yeah. And then I'm finding myself in Monday and I'm like, I don't want to go to work. I don't want. I think that was the initial of it, because I am one of those, call me dreamy. I believe you have to love what you do, right? Because it chips away from you. And I've noticed, like, Like, I think even when you and I met and I wanted to do this, the goals, the vision, I have even mentioned it eventually. I want to write a book. I want to do this, that. But not that I was drifting away from it, but if I wanted to make it the successful thing that I was envisioning it, again, I was losing a piece of me. I wanted to be Azi, the therapist, not the Azi manage people. Even I noticed, like, I wanted to give my associates supervision, but the sessions were turning out to be about business because I had to have those conversations, you know?
It was taking you out of what you really loved to be doing.
Yeah, the teaching part, that I want to help you be the therapist you want to be. Because, I mean, kudos to people who can do that, right? I had a inner conflict inside of me. Like, people, when you're studying, like, to have that business, people kind of, because they don't, maybe, I don't know, maybe they don't want you to let go of them. Maybe they want to prove to you they're good. They don't share vulnerable stuff about the practice with you as much anymore, you know? And I was craving for that.
Right.
I think at some point I even told you, I was looking for a mini me. I wanted to mentor somebody. And I had some wonderful associates and they were kind of giving me that feeling. But then in a business typical world, if you want to be successful, the things that I was doing, you don't do.
Right.
Like, I literally... And people will laugh at this. And maybe I'm a bad business entrepreneur and I don't care. I'm going to say it. I asked one of my associates who was a woman of color. And I'm like, are you ever going to ask me for a raise? And she looked at me like that. And I'm like, are you ever going to ask me?
Yeah.
It's time. You've been here. I can't just give it to you. This is a good exercise. You're a woman of color.
Yep.
You got to learn because we don't sometimes, honestly, I mean, maybe it was me. You don't know your rights.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Well, and I feel like also in a therapeutic practice, like, what doesn't come up for me is like raises or how to get more money, that it's just like, it's set. You get what you get. Is initially from like an outside perspective looking in, that wouldn't really be fostered in you or in your training of like, hey, around this time, this is like kind of when your rates should be going up, or what are those things?
Yeah.
So I think that's a great question.
Yeah, but Jenna, that's not the case. I'll tell you that. If you grew up, and maybe I'm generalizing, and I apologize to those people if I am, I think if you've born here and you have some sense of how this country works, people do ask.
Oh, yeah.
People come and ask for what they want.
Yep.
And especially if you know war, and I love it. But then I'm sitting here, I'm giving someone who's less experienced than this woman of color, she's asked me, yeah, negotiate, I'll give it to you, right? Yeah, it's in the contract. It's in the contract. You can ask me. I literally slip it there because I want to be a fair businesswoman.
Of course.
And then my woman of color person, fantastic, better than so many of them.
Yeah.
She's not asking me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, ask me.
I
So
know.
when I tell people who are like really good at growing businesses and managing people, they're like, you did that? I'm like, yeah. So that's the inner conflict that it was coming in a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
I want to be successful. Sure, I like to make money, but I don't want to make money this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's part, and it comes down to the values alignment and who you want to show up as, right? And that's why I always say, like, nobody's path has to be the same. And just because it was right, even for like a big group of people, cool, that's awesome. And if that works for you, great, follow that exact blueprint. But if not, I saw a post the other day and I was like, oh my goodness, if this was a thing that we should be praising and teaching emotional regulation and understanding instead of like negotiating hardcore, like all these different things, to be able to do things from a place of intention, purpose, and knowing. But the more that you really understand what's happening in your body versus ignoring it, because I think in the moments of when something is a full body yes, you know, and when it's not, you start to feel like, I always call it like, it feels like my spine will like kick out a vertebrae, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is not in alignment. And so I need to get myself back into center, and I can literally feel my body go like shrink down as soon as I do, like, thank you, you almost took us somewhere we didn't want to go, but you popped us back into place. And I think that that's so important. And then also I know, yes, you did mention your book when we first met. Like, I have these big ideas. I'm like, all possible, all can happen. We could do this all in a year if you wanted to. So no
I love
surprise.
that you always were my cheerleader. I loved it.
Always. no surprise for anybody listening of why you would want to write a book, even though we've touched on all the like light points and not all the details of how this would come into a really great story. But the one piece that you ended up going down, and we might do a second part of like digging deep into what psychedelic therapy looks like and how that's going on a bigger section to maybe like deal with people's traumas in a different way. But I always had plant medicine a part of my life, and like energy healers and Reiki and like all these different things, which I think are pure magic. Until one day you were like, I'm going to go do ayahuasca. I was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, where did this come from? I'm like, you've never talked about this. This I think has been like far left field for you.
I know.
So this came to a point, and was this a rise out of, we'll call it a Gabor Maté-esque type direction of there's only really kind of one true way to like, we'll call it like go deal with your demons in a sense, and release them? Or did something come up where you're like, I need to now go this direction?
So I think it started with two things, actually. Part of it was about 4 years in therapy at this point. Processed bunch of my sexual trauma, the abuse, neglect. There was like this big traumatic loss of my grandmother. One session, we talked about it. And then, but there's this, I noticed, so I'm a therapist and I'm in therapy, I journal, I meditate. There's this dark cloud that still comes and visits me. Where I go dive in around December-ish, more even, around my birthday. And so two things happened. One of them was this one, that I sat in my, actually, before that, sorry, backtrack a little bit. How it happened with an acupuncture appointment, actually. I ended up in March of 2023, around 23, I was, some stuff was happening at work. I had some stuff going on with an associate, was in a bad shape. Usually in winter time, I wasn't doing very well with my body. I knew it was like something going on. Ended up at an acupuncture appointment. And this, one of the sessions, this woman, fantastic, which I still see for 2 years, she pokes me. And I start having like feelings come up on session. I process, like I always say, I process stuff on the table just because I know, like being a therapist, right? Anger comes towards my brother still, and then memories of my grandmother a little bit. Like some things about my grandmother come up, and I'm like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, I keep bragging and I say, I've been in therapy for like 5 years, 10 years at this point, but 5 years consistently.
Expert in it. Love it.
Yeah. What else is in there that I don't know?
Yep.
Because acupuncture is also like poking like you at the source.
Nervous system. Yeah.
So I came to Dale. Dale, sorry if you didn't want your name to be said, but I'm saying it anyways because I'm so grateful to you. Shout out to Dale.
It's a long-term relationship. We're celebrating.
I love Dale. And I come and sit there, and I think actually, so this whole 2003, I call it like a starting of my transition year.
Yeah.
At the same time of this, I am on medication for my MS. There are daily injections, and I'm hating them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to travel. I have to keep carrying this stuff with me. And then my doctor pushes me to kind of switch medications because he knows I love it to travel. Yep. Maybe you want to try this, but the medication I'm on is like safest, basic, no immunosuppressant. The ones he wants to put me on is immunosuppressant. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. So all of this is happening. I decide to go off my medication. I go listen to Joe Dispenza's meditation. I'm like, you know what? People keep saying you can heal your body. Let me just give it a try, because I have friends, like so many people around me who are like, I was so left brain. I didn't bring anything on the other side. That's why you were shocked when I said I'm going to ayahuasca. So then I start doing that. I'm doing pretty good for a couple of months. I'm off medication. But at the same time, so this is happening and I'm going pretty good. Sometime around June-ish, I don't know when I told Dale, and I'm like, Dale, I'm tired, okay? I've been sitting here talking about all of this. I literally feel there's something in my body, and I need something to pull it out of me.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want it, okay? Yeah. And I went to the acupuncture and hooked it to me, and I don't want it anymore. So, and I'm I'm 38 years old. So I literally made a conscious decision to myself, okay? I said, I remember a conversation with my best friends and I said, I'm tired, okay? I'm tired of sitting and crying about shit. My mom did this, my dad did this, this happened. Okay, you know what happened, okay? I want to move on and I'm going to do whatever I can in my power, whatever it's on this planet. I don't believe in it, I'm going to go do it. Because I want this out of me. I refuse to walk into my 40s with the shit from my past. I don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
It's my story. Own it. Okay, adios.
Yeah.
Ciao. I want to live my life because I feel like I'm still in prison. So, proud of ayahuasca. Got introduced to a bunch of stuff locally. Still wasn't ready.
Yep.
I don't know. The email was sitting in my inbox for a couple of months. And then in December, I had another relapse. Very minor one, still on my eye. And that really hit me so hard down. And I'm like, okay, I'm off my medication, a little bit of blaming myself.
Yep.
Why did you do this? Why did you go off of it? Like, this is like BS. You can just like heal your body. So a little bit of down path. And I'm like, my birthday is approaching, dark cloud is there. And I'm on top of that, I'm dealing with my eye is already not functioning. And on top of that, I have a mild, I was lucky that it was mild and it went away after 2 weeks. And I'm like, I'm tired. So that's when I contacted the contact to go do an ayahuasca ceremony. I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to have relapses.
Yeah.
I just want to heal my body. You know what? I did this to myself and I'm going to own it. Some people may not like me when I say that, but I did it. You know, my suppressed emotions, not dealing with it. I own up to it, okay?
Yeah, it's important. Well, and I think that not everybody can realize the impact or get to a place where they can kind of see. And I think also with plant medicine, every healer that I've worked with have always told, like, as soon as you make the choice, the medicine starts working. And again, before you press the trigger button, like it's sitting. And again, it doesn't have to be like, boom, I'm going in tomorrow and it's happening. It will always unfold exactly how it's supposed to.
Yeah. The minute it even comes to your mind, you already started it. And I have so many examples of that. You're always doing your prep work. You're getting ready for it. All my therapy, all the years, I was just getting ready for it.
For sure.
And it did start like, I think from the time that it was in my inbox.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think is that's like conscious thing of like sequencing of how things happen. And then also knowing that, and as they always say, the medicine will never give you more than you can handle. It might feel like you can, but it will only give you more. And that's why you'll always have people who have different stories or go deeper into it and kind of uncover layers from that perspective. And so you go have your first journey. I'm obviously still in cheerleading mode because this is amazing and I'm so excited to hear all about it. And then what I laughed at and was not surprised by, but it was like so funny to just like see happening was, oh yeah, I'm going to go do it again. But this time I'm going to Peru and then I want to do it with like an old school, like original shaman. I was like,
yeah.
Okay, so we had like the big experience with the first one because not everybody does. Sometimes it takes a little bit more time.
Yeah.
And you go to Peru to go deeper with the work. And now I would say, did you decide after the first one or the second one that this would be something kind of that you knew was going to be part of how you were going to go forward in healing with others?
I think I didn't know it till the second time in Peru.
Yeah.
When I saw the combination of all the things, the 3 ceremonies here, the 2 weeks that I did a dieta in Peru, which is, at some point I want to kind of talk about that more in deep and what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to do that for my clients because, and you know what, I'm learning actually, I'm halfway through the program that I'm doing to actually use them with clients hopefully, but we're kind of learning a little bit about it might not be a good fit for everybody. I had a hard time like kind of sitting with that because I'm like, this amazing thing. Everybody should try it. But I'm kind of understanding that because you have to be ready for sure. But if you're like, I think there's certain kind of traumas and complex traumas. Honestly, the stuff that came up for me, and I'm a therapist, I don't know how many more years I needed to be in therapy. And if I would have been able to talk about it the way that the medicine pulled it out of me, right? Because literally back to that conversation that like I put it out there. I need help. 5 years in, I need something to come pull this out of me because I'm tapping at it. And
it's just hard. And I kind of inadvertently answers the question I was going to ask you of like the difference, I'll call it, that you experience from like talk therapy versus plant medicine therapy. And it's so different. And I always say it's not for the faint of heart. You gotta, again, like picking the right therapist, right guide, right place, safety net, like all the other things to make sure that, again, you're in safety to do this because it is overwhelming. It is intense. A lot of things come up. And you need to be really held in that space to pick apart and work through all the things that could come up or may come up after. And there's also big reasons why now it's becoming so much more mainstream with veterans, PTSD, MDMA, like all type of options to help people resolve trauma or really outside of like that kind of world, whatever it is for them to come up in a different way. Because I don't think there's any mode or even any perfect setting that can put you in that type of space, quite literally, and let you see things or hear things in a way to watch it happen, feel it again, hear something that you didn't know that you needed to hear in order to completely release it from your entire being.
Exactly, from your body. Especially, I find it, my trauma was, I knew it, right? I knew it in my head.
Yeah.
It was about my grandmother who died in a very bad car accident when I was 10. And I went the next day outside in the alley and I played with my cousin, and that was that. So I knew it in here. She was my ally in my family. She was my angel, safeguard. But in my whole 10 years of therapy, I only talked about her one session. And I sat there and I talked about my dad left me. My mom was neglectful. One session about my grandmother, and then I'm just, even as a therapist, it's just such an interesting process for me because later on when I want to do this for clients, because especially for things that are emotionally very suppressed, like I have so much other stuff, so much background noise that I'm not gonna go talk about my dead grandmother from like 30 years ago.
No, you're dealing with present day, like this is on my chest and weighing me down.
I know it. Sure, she died. It was awful. But the amount of grief in my body that I had no access to. I had no way of pulling it out. I didn't know. And that's the book that I'm trying to write about. That like, so everybody's trauma manifests in different way, and there's symptoms that come up. Mine was this deep sense of loneliness in the world. Like, and I always knew I have friends, but because of the lack of connection with my family, I'm always in this place of I'm alone. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, I'm out there on my own. No one cares.
Yeah, no one cares. That was my negative core beliefs. And we tapped around it. So like, okay, I have friends, I have children, family, they care about me. But the dark cloud, it was the symptom of trauma that was linked to this thing. Like directly linked to the story of my grandmother and what happened there. And I wasn't talking about it. I remember my poor Jill, one session after the acupuncture, actually, that like I just mentioned it here and there. I came and we had a session after the acupuncture appointment about my grandmother. And then Dale told me, like, she lives in your heart, something around the line of that. And I'm like, left, right, and then in my head, I'm like, what the hell do you mean? Okay, I still feel alone.
Yeah.
So, okay, she's in my heart, she's somewhere else, she's in the sky. I don't know, and I don't really believe in anything. What do you mean? And that was that. Like, even an attempt of him to give me something that I needed to process, to realize, to get to this place, that to kind of deal with that feeling of loneliness, to see what was that about. There was an attempt there, but I don't know how many years would I have visited that, would have my defenses and egos and my left brain would have allowed me to take in what?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like even you and I were sometimes about talking about all this stuff. Like I'm open to stuff.
Yeah.
I don't judge it, but I'm like, I don't know about it. I wouldn't do it. I don't like, what do you mean, Jenna? Right?
But also, like, I never dug in with it. I'm like, it's just not her vibe. So why would I, like, get into that? And then also when I heard that, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is going to be interesting to see unfold.
Yeah.
So we've unpacked a lot today, from, you know, the journey from, you know, and I think especially in Vancouver, from around to Canada, there's a lot of people who I'm sure will see and hear themselves in your story, whether it's all of it, pieces of it, and all the things, the evolution, the fight, the commitment, the honesty, the vulnerability along the way, and then the openness in terms of the struggles along the way. But what I think that also really stands out is your commitment to a high degree of care for the people that you treat, regardless of what you're going through, but also building that for yourself, which maybe not at the time you were super aware that you were also really doing, of if I don't provide the highest quality of care for myself, how can I do that for other people? And then a relentless fight for answers in a bunch of different ways that has led you to this place of writing a book, deepening your healing even more through plant-assisted therapy, is now getting certified to bring that to your clients, which is obviously there's a conflict, so I don't get to do that with you. We'll figure out a different way to do that perhaps one day, but that's neither here nor there. You know, to where, you know, you're at today, and what I feel is probably one of the more grounded places I've seen you in a different way. So to kind of wrap it up in a bow, a few questions that are going to be easier for some digestible pieces for people, kind of like key takeaways, I think, through it all. What is the one daily practice that keeps you grounded?
Meditation.
Okay. Do you have a favorite style of meditation?
I don't like self-guided meditations. I don't know why. Yeah, I just like to sit there. I started with like some sort of like a chakra awakening or just some sound ones, but I find the guided ones, they take me away from me. I just trained myself eventually. I just like to sit there and start with body checks, and everything that is there, it comes, and sometimes I clear it, and then I get to that place that I want to clear. But daily one, feel lost without it, as if I haven't brushed my teeth that day if I don't do it.
Body checks, breath, like magical.
Yeah.
Not things also that cost $0.
Absolutely.
Which is wonderful. You mentioned books a few times throughout, and some key books. Can you share one or like maybe top 3 books that like profoundly impacted your journey?
The first one is the one that I was telling you that I was using a little bit. I didn't have enough of the trainings. It's the Healing Your Inner Child, Homecoming, Healing Your Inner Child by John Bradshaw.
Okay.
That's my always go-to book. I read that book and I didn't know anything about inner child. And that book technically was my introduction to, I have an inner child inside of me. And it's a fantastic book. It's a process book. Lots of work to it. Like, you know, I even still till today. So this is 2013 that I came across this book. One of my friends gifted to me. And I still recommend it to people. Your Body Keeps Score by Gabor, Maté.
No, Body Keeps Score is
John when your body says no.
When your body says no,
That's a fantastic book too. Yeah. Read that one too. But for the third one, I'm going to go with, I forgot his name, but if it's called It Didn't Start With You. It's about transgenerational trauma.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We'll make sure we
I don't think there are any other
get
books.
the right titles for
I don't think there are any other books under that title, but it's a beautiful book. it didn't start with you. I just forgot the name of the author.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody who feels disconnected from their inner power?
Oh, sad. Don't give up. I think your inner power is there, obviously. You just lost touch with it. And I like to believe it's sitting at the bottom of and past working control of your traumas. Because once you, let's call it declutter that place, it's like scooping it out, dusting a little bit. This comes out, that comes out. You get more and more in touch with that voice. And that was my journey. And it just becomes louder and louder because there's more space for it. But there you have all these pieces. I mean, it doesn't even have to be big traumas.
Nope.
They're taking a space, shoving that inner voice, the powerful one, down because there's no space for it to be. But if you do that, just do anything. Therapy is expensive, whatever it is. You know what? If therapy is not for you, find a way.
Yeah.
Meditate,
Yeah.
Find a way of just kind of clearing that space so then you can hear it.
Yeah. And you mentioned therapy is expensive. Also, ones that people, I always say, hey, if it's not right there, find really good people who can mentor you, who will make space for you.
Yeah.
That believe in you, that are going to instill that confidence in you, will always help in the in-between times.
Yeah.
We chatted a little bit about, therapists and, what makes kind of ideally like a good therapist. But in terms of somebody who's like, listen, I already find it overwhelming. I'm scared to go get help. How would you say, like, what would be the best way to go about finding your right therapist that people should think about, or like how to search for it, or maybe look for things that might help them make that process a little easier?
If you have a friend around you who has a therapist, ask them to ask their therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the easier way. Usually if someone recommends something, that's, I think, like that therapist, if you can't see their therapist, ask them for names. Because at least like we know like a little bit, and like I take referrals, like, so like I think about them, ask about the person a little bit, even if I don't know them, tell me preference, all that. But if you don't have that, anybody around you who's been to therapy, I think just Google is your best friend. But if you especially have stuff and you already at this point, you knew you have stuff that are deep, and you I think hopefully at this point people know like what's trauma. Look for a trauma therapist, not trauma-informed therapist. They're two different things. Trauma-informed is I know it, but I can't touch it.
Right.
I don't know how to touch it. That was me before I did the trainings of ADP and stuff. A trauma therapist, of course, informed, but knows how to unpack it, pack it, and then put it on the shelf.
Right.
So you can, it's there, but the symptoms, the triggers are going away. So look for that. Interview your therapist. Even if you don't ask about supervision, for sure ask the therapist if they're having their own therapy. And I'm going to be a little bit picky, ask how often they're doing it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good to know, because it's not like there's a lot of things that tell you what to look out for. And then obviously that they're registered. Obviously, if you have benefits, that's going to allow you to submit it. But also from if there was any issues, challenges, there's like a governing body that you can go to report that. I don't wish that on anybody, but at least those safety mechanisms are there for any potential bad actors out there.
Yes, I'm hoping this is like registered Canadian, all the certified
we just want to make
ones.
sure, or like, whatever the U.S. equivalent is, like we want to make sure everybody is doing the
make
doing
sure
the
they
things
have
right.
the body, because just so you have, because we have regulations, like we had a 3 months course on ethics.
Yeah.
So
as we all know, some people take that seriously than others.
Yeah.
All right, last question. In your own words, what does built for this mean to you?
Okay, I think everybody on this planet has abilities, skills, different types of beautiful intelligences, and everybody is built for something. You just gotta find what's that for you. So then we can actually say you're built for this. So then when people see you, they're like, oh man, she's built for this.
I love that. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
And for everybody listening, we are going to give away a chance. We're going to get you to like, tag, share all the things in Azi's episode for a session with her, which is very coveted because this woman is very full, but we're going to do that so somebody lucky out there can access that and feel seen and start their healing journey, which is really important. So we're excited. So stay tuned for all the details on that. But that is it. Thank you for showing up today, Azi, and bringing everything that you were initially scared to bring, maybe.
I know. I know. Thank you so much for having me. Actually, this was great. Yeah.
Good.
This was great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.